Hello, I'm Keith Spera from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Welcome to Let's Talk. My guest today served more than 2 decades in the United States Navy before landing his dream job as a TV meteorologist. He spent 18 years at local NBC affiliate WDSU, calmly walking viewers through heat waves and hurricanes and providing forecasts for fishermen and fisherwomen. As many fans hoped he'd succeed Margaret Orr as WDSU's chief meteorologist. When that didn't happen, he retired and has since embarked on a new journey. Here to talk about all that and more is Damon Singleton. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's just great to be here with you.
Well, thank you for coming in. As a longtime meteorologist, I have to ask you, are you more of a hot weather fan or a cold weather fan?
Hot weather.
Yeah, hands down?
Hands down, absolutely.
I am with you on that. As a New Orleans native, I think you kind of have to be.
Absolutely. You know, I got some interest from folks in Connecticut and Detroit and other places up north after I left WDSU, and I was like, oh.
Was that really a factor? You're like, nope.
Yeah, I don't want to move into the Detroit. You know how cold it gets in there?
I've heard. I have no interest in discovering for myself. What's funny, you know, I looked, there's a picture of you from your senior year, I think at St. Aug. We're not going to go into the fashion, you know, or anything about that. But,
yeah. With the fro?
With the fro, oh yeah, there was but even back then, you said meteorologist. That was your dream gig.
That was my senior year in high school. You know, we did this thing, and I was the editor of the yearbook. And we did this thing where you put your name, your sign for whatever reason, and your what you intended to be. And yeah, it was a meteorologist. But I've wanted to be a meteorologist since I was about 13, 14 years old.
What sparked the interest? What was?
You know, I kind of tell the story of just being out in my neighborhood with some friends, and you know, I noticed a block away from where we were, it was raining, pouring down rain. On the park where the swings and the basketball court was, and it wasn't raining on me. And my friends all went home, and I stood there going, wow, that is truly amazing. And from that moment to this moment, I've been fascinated with the weather and the atmosphere and how it all works and figuring it out. And it's been quite a journey.
Absolutely. You went to St. Aug, graduated in 1980. You were a member of the Marching 100 for a couple of years, but decided not to pursue a career in music. Was that not your calling?
Yeah, it wasn't. And you know, and I wasn't a great musician while I was there. But I enjoyed being in the band. That's one of the reasons that I went to St. Aug, because I wanted to be in the Marching 100. And so that was a big motivator for me. But I spent 2 years there and then left, and you know, my interests were much greater than you know, playing music, and so I left and started doing some other things at the school, some other extracurricular activities.
But you served in the band under Edwin Hampton, the legendary
Edwin Hampton. Sure did.
Was he a guy? I mean, did he have an effect on your life at all? Do you feel? Was he a mentor that meant something to you? He
was kind of a larger than life figure. He'd been at St. Aug for years. He's someone that's recognized around this community by cross-section of people. And he's just someone that's so well respected and so well liked, and he's a wealth of knowledge. That it was tremendous to be around him and to learn from him, and to kind of hopefully absorb some of what made him Edwin Hampton.
Every St. Aug graduate that I talk to, and I say this as a Brother Martin graduate myself, just still has such a bond with that school, it seems like. So that was formative in your life, obviously, to attend St. Aug.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, because you know, I'm a child of the 60s, and so you know, St. Aug was a place that expected so much from you. And you know, I tell the story from time to time that I had a paper that I got that I thought I did pretty well on, and you know, my teacher thought I should have done better. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he looked at me and he said, "So look, this is the standard. So you got 2 choices. You can meet the standard or you can exceed the standard. Those are your 2 choices. Meet the standard, exceed the standard, not below."
No.
And you know, that stuck with me. And I think, and permeated the whole school. You know, whatever you were doing, you know, in the classroom, on the football field, the baseball field, basketball field, with the yearbook staff, with us, you know, everything that, you know, that you were expected to do your best or better than your best. And, you know, that's kind of stuck with me all my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you leave St. Aug, you move to Houston, go to college. And again, you had picked meteorology as your career early on, but you also now developed this parallel track in the ROTC and ended up being commissioned as an officer in the Navy. Why did you decide to veer off on that track instead of going meteorology all on?
That was that was an accident.
You accidentally enlisted?
Yeah. Well, you know, I was at the University of St. Thomas studying meteorology. I had a friend who was involved in the Navy ROTC program at Rice. And, you know, started talking to him about the program. And I knew that, you know, my dad kind of pushed my older brothers towards ROTC because he thought it was an important program and that it was going to be important for their future. And so they joined ROTC when they were in college. My oldest brother stuck with it and became an Air Force officer, but, you know, the brother right above me, he got involved and then left. But, you know, my dad never really pushed me towards it. And I guess he didn't think it was a fit for me. But I knew that. And I had a friend who was in the ROTC program, and he took me over to the unit at Rice, and they expressed a great interest in me. You know, they were looking to diversify the program because it was not very diverse at all. And I said, okay. And I got involved, and my intention was to, you know, to get my warfare qualification as a surface warfare officer, and then move into Navy meteorology and geophysics. You know, and I asked for an aircraft carrier for my first ship because they have a whole meteorology department on board.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was working on my qualifications, I spent some time in the meteorology office, discovered that it was the driest existence on the ship, and said, okay, I'm not gonna do that. You know, I'm gonna do my 4 years and then bounce. And I wrote my letter of resignation after my 4 years. As I was approaching my 4 years, and that got more attention on my ship than I ever thought it would.
So the letter of resignation got more attention.
Yeah. Everybody in my chain of command stopped what they're doing, called me, pulled me into their office, talked to me about the Navy, said, you should reconsider this. We really need you. You're doing a great job. You're having a big impact on the sailors on the ship. You know, the second in command of the Constellations, you know, he told me we need more black officers. And you're a great one, and so I decided to stick around for another few years, and that led to another 4 years, and that led to another 5 years, and that led, you know, before I knew it, I was in the Navy for 22 years, and you know, I met my wife after I'd been in for 16 years. I got married. She had this great opportunity at Johns Hopkins. So instead of going back to sea after a tour that I spent in Miami at the Southern Command headquarters, I said, well, let's go to Johns Hopkins. So we moved to Baltimore. I went taught at the Naval Academy for a couple of years. Then she finished there. We moved back home, and I taught at Southern University in Baton Rouge, ran an ROTC program there for a couple of years, and then retired. And then retired
for the first time.
Yeah.
So your wife married a naval officer. That was the deal. That was the deal. All
she
right.
did.
I hear that plays well with the ladies, the white uniform and everything. Yes.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it played pretty well with her dad too. So.
Oh, well, that's equally important.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, my guest today is former WDSU meteorologist Damon Singleton. So obviously, yeah, you wouldn't have kept re-upping in the Navy if you weren't enjoying it and weren't getting some sort of sense of satisfaction out of it, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But finally, after 22 years, time to call it a day.
Time to call it a day.
To sail off into the sunset.
Sail off into the sunset. A wife and 2 children when I retired. And yeah, I couldn't see myself, you know, deploying for 6, 7, 8 months and leaving them all behind, especially at that point in my life. And my wife is just starting her career. So it just kind of worked out. You know, I came home, I tried to get a job in meteorology at every TV station in town. Nobody would give me the time of day. I knew a friend of mine from St. Aug, actually, who knew the news director at Channel 6. I said, Todd, just get me in the door, man. And he made a phone call, and I got in the door, and what I thought was going to be a 5-minute meeting turned into like an hour. And I walked out of his office with him saying, okay, we're going to give you a shot. We're going to give you like 6 months. You spend some time in the office. You work with Margaret. You learn, the TV game.
Margaret Orr, obviously legendary WH meteorologist,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And he looked at me and he said, well, you'll either sink or swim.
To which you said?
To which I said, I'm a United States naval officer. We don't sink.
We don't sink.
We don't sink.
We
exactly.
don't sink.
Yeah, and so I got picked up at WDSU, and here I am, 18 years later.
You didn't sink.
I didn't sink.
You didn't sink. So yeah, I mean, over the course of your time at WDSU, you developed a lot of trademark things about your broadcasts. You dressed really well. Everyone knew you for that, and you were famous for referring to the forecast for fishermen and fisherwomen. How did that come about? That catchphrase. I think I said it once. I said fishermen once. If you're trying to get it out on the water today, this is what you can expect. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody at WDSU was saying, "What about us? We like to fish." And I was like, you know what? You're right. And so that started Fishermen and Fisherwomen. And you kept at it.
And I kept at it. And, the Saints won a Super Bowl, and so the Superdome became Superdome, and people in Tally Chic always love when I say Tally Chic, or some of them do anyway. So I just thought it was a cool name. And there was other reasons for that, but I'm not going to go into. But
Margaret Orr, legend at the station. It's safe to call her a mentor, obviously.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. A friend, a mentor, great boss, great colleague, just an all-around awesome person.
Absolutely. Now you did a couple sidelines along the way too. You were Brick in a production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Did a little acting there for a community theater.
Yeah, that's something that I always wanted to do. I actually did a play when I was stationed in the Bay Area as well, and so I had an opportunity. The director actually called me up at the station and said, "Hey, I'm doing this production of A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and I want you to play the lead role." And I was like, "Who's this?" And I went and I talked to her about it, and I said, "Yeah." And I had to clear with the news director at the time, and he said, "Cool, yeah."
All right, so you got to get your star turn on the stage there.
Absolutely.
So, if you're just tuning in, my guest today is former WDSU meteorologist Damon Singleton. All right, so you do 18 years at the station. Mm-hmm. March 2024, Margaret announces that she's retiring. Right. You are the next senior meteorologist. You were interested in replacing her as chief meteorologist, obviously. I
was. I knew we would get to this. Yeah, I was. I was expecting to. I thought I'd earned the position. Yeah, I was expecting to replace her.
As were, I think, a lot of your fans were expecting that as well. That's not the way it worked out, obviously. Was there ever a conversation where you were flat out told, "Hey, we don't think you're the man for the job," or was it just more of an attrition thing where it just went on and they didn't name somebody and you kind of got the message?
Well, I'd been asking about the position for since before it was actually announced that the official announcement came out. I mean, we knew that she was going to retire before then. And when she originally, because she's been talking about retiring for a long time.
Right. Yep.
And so, whenever she said retirement, yeah,
sure, Margaret. Sure, Margaret.
Sure.
Right.
But this time was the real deal. And so I'd been asking about it for a while. And they finally, the news director flat out told me that I wasn't going to be the next chief. Mm-hmm. Mm. And there's a lot went on from that moment until the time I retired, kind of back and forth with the general manager at the station, you know, and it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. Right. Were you given a reason? Was there a discussion about why they didn't think you were the man for the job?
Oh yeah, I got a couple of a couple of reasons, you know.
Which, yeah, I mean, is tough. I mean, because
you know, but it was. I thought I was going to hear something significant, and I did, and my response was, okay, I've been here for 18 years. That's all you can come. I mean, if you go back through the years, you can probably find more than what you're saying. But you know what you won't find in that time is me giving out bad information. You won't find any time where I misrepresented myself or the station. You won't find a time that I wasn't a supporter of WDSU, and you know, I put my heart and soul in that job for 18 years, and yeah, I thought I'd earned the position.
You were a company man. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you were out in the community all the time.
All the time.
Speaking to schools and
got my WDSU shirt on.
Got your WDSU covering Fleet Week when the Navy was in town. You know, right? I mean, you did all that sort of stuff. So, for you then, when it became clear that you weren't going to be given that job, did you know then that was going to be the end of your time at DSU, or did you consider staying on?
I guess a little bit of both. I considered staying on. I mean, because they offered me a raise and you know, the different working hours and stuff like that. And but I just, you know, my self-respect wouldn't let me stick around. So I finally said, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and retire. And I'm fortunate that I'd been there for long enough that I could retire instead of just saying I'm leaving, I quit.
Right. You were able to leave with some retirement benefits, all that sort of stuff. The public reaction when it came out that you were retiring.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it.
I mean, you had congressmen making proclamations, you had the city council hauling you in front of them, which often is a bad thing, but you got hauled in front of the city council for a good thing, to be praised. You had, I mean, I'll never forget your last broadcast. You had your wife, Dr. Tammy Singleton, sitting there, and your daughters, and Margaret Orr, and Heath Allen, and all these folks kind of gathered around you as a show of support. I mean, God, it had to be a lot to handle, like all that, to receive that much emotion.
You know, it was, you know, 50 times more than what I expected. I mean, I knew there would be some reaction, but I mean, there was like thousands and thousands of comments all over social media, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, everywhere, and you know, I was when the announcement came from the station, it was Damon Singleton just decided to retire after 18 years. And you know, I had some friends that said, you need to go take a look at Facebook. And you know, some of the people saying, you know, Damon Singleton, there's no way Damon Singleton is going to retire in 2 weeks in the middle of hurricane season unless some, you know, BS is going on at WDSU. And you know, 80% of the people were saying the same thing. You know, some people thought I was just retiring. But most people just kind of saw through it all. And you know, I always hoped that I was making an impact with all my visits and everything that I do in the community. But I'm still floored by it all. They still get phone calls at WDSU.
Really?
About this today, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, yeah, you retired in August. It was August 2024, so hurricane season. And yeah, you said something on that show. You were very diplomatic about it, but I think the line was, the circumstances under which I'm leaving are not ideal. So, I mean, you alluded to the fact that things are going down behind the scenes, but you didn't wallow in it or anything like that, which I thought was a classy way to handle the situation. So.
Yeah, and I have avoided saying anything this whole time, and And like I mentioned to you, the only reason I'm here today is because, you know, Margaret Orr and other people kind of encouraged me to come and kind of talk to you about it. Say, Keith is a good guy.
Well, like
which I already knew.
Well, thank you. Like Lucy on the Peanuts, I have my little psychiatrist booth, and you know, so you owe me a nickel for my services after this. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is former WDSU meteorologist Damon Singleton. So you walk away, you take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And
I walked away from a job I loved.
A job you loved.
Absolutely.
And you know, and it's interesting too, because you didn't become a meteorologist till you're in your early 40s, right? Is that right?
Well,
I mean,
my degree's in meteorology.
Right, but you didn't. Your first gig was
at WDSU
in your early 40s, right?
Yeah, in 2006.
2006, yeah. So I mean, it was a late career, well, a mid-career move, a big move. But again, that was a job you loved.
You're dating me. You want to?
you want to know how old I am? How old you were? People won't believe it if we say it, because you look a hell of a lot younger than you are. But
thank you.
It's all right. So yeah, so the dream job, you walk away. You didn't know what you were going to do at that point. Like you said earlier, that you fielded some offers from other stations around the country, but was it those jobs specifically, or were you just saying, no, I'm done with meteorology at this point?
No. I still, and I'm, you know, it's still in the back of my head to be a meteorologist, to be on TV. And so, am I done with it completely? I don't know. I spent some time, I took some time off. You know, I was kind of in a hurry to start doing something. And my wife was like, just chill out for a minute.
Yeah, right, sure.
Yeah, so I took several months off, which I actually needed. Because, you know, I had, you know, I guess this kind of bitterness, you know, that's not the way I imagined I'd be leaving WDSU. Sure. And so, you know, I had to deal with that. Mm-hmm. You know, you know, frankly, I called Fred Luter, the Franklin Avenue Baptist Church pastor, and I would call him up on the phone and said, Pastor, I'm having a hard time getting over this anger that I feel. And he told me some good things that kind of helped me out quite a bit. And so got through it all. I happened to know of the defense industry here in town, and I expressed an interest, and they were interested, so it just kind of worked out. So in the last 3 minutes here, let's talk a little bit about that job. So now you're working for a defense contractor, which, you know, I mean, you're a military guy for 22 years. So, I mean, you have the background for it. Describe a little bit about what the new gig is. Well, it's a Haptech Defense Systems. And so it's a tech company. And what we do is build the hardware that works with artificial mixed reality systems, alternate reality systems to train soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, police departments when they're you know, trying to gear up for an op or to deploy or anything like that. So we build surrogate weapons, M4s, M17s, M18s, and we developed this what we call drop-in kits that allows the soldier or the Marine to, when he's field stripping his weapon, taking all the insides out, you can take our drop-in kit, slide it in, and you can use your actual weapon in a training environment, and without, you know, instead of using some kind of training weapon.
Right, the real weapon without real bullets, basically.
The real weapon without real bullets, but the thing acts like, you know, a drop-in kit enables you to, when you use it, when you fire it, it reacts just as if it was the actual weapon. And so you have that system, and you go into whatever company's mixed reality system that you're training in with our weapon, and that's how it works out.
So you've circled back to your first career in a lot of ways.
In some ways, yeah.
You know the language. I mean, you know the military language. You know how to talk to folks in the military. Right. Do you still find yourself following the weather closely? Oh,
every day. Every day, I follow the weather. You know, I find myself watching Zach Fradella actually a lot of mornings here in town. And, you know, people still call me for the weather, and they stop me and ask me about the weather all the time. And they I mean, it's just amazing. Every day, someone stops me and saying, "I miss you. I really wish you were still there." It's, you know, that kind of sucks what they did to you, that kind of thing. I don't watch WDSU anymore. You know, every day, and so the support has not ended. People
really get passionate about their local news personalities and stations. I mean, in this town, they really do. And you know, it's funny. We only got a minute left here, but you know, having talked to Margaret Orr about this, who still throws out forecasts and stuff on social media, it seems like once a meteorologist, always a meteorologist.
Absolutely. Yeah, I took a little hiatus from social media for a while, but I'm getting back into it now.
And still, like, still a hot weather guy though. That hasn't changed. The preference hasn't changed.
Preference hasn't changed. Still fascinated with the atmosphere. Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, it's a fascinating thing. Well, it's been a heck of a journey for you, obviously. But you know, it seems like the whole way you've definitely subscribed to that lesson you learned at St. Aug.
Oh,
you meet or exceed the standards, and you do that. So. And you're doing that now with the gig you're in, I guess, as well.
I hope so. Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much, Keith.
I hope if you want to be back on the air, you get back on the air at some point. So.
Yeah. Who have you been talking to?
I have no information. I'm in the media. I don't know anything. David, it's been a pleasure, man.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am Keith Spera. We will see you again next week on Let's Talk.